Good morning and welcome to another video from Lindars Radios. Today we're going to be marking the 80th anniversary of VE Day, and Rob G3MYM is going to do a short presentation on some of the equipment used during World War II. But before that, let me just show you, for the people that haven't been in the shop recently, we have some new racking over here, which we're going to stack with lots of fresh radios. You can see we've got an FTDX 1200 there. We've got a Yaesu FT1000 MP and an ICOM IC7300. And on top of that, we're also doing 15% off all Morse keys this weekend. So that's 15% off every single Morse key that we have. And now, Rachel, if you want to show some of the keys in the cabinet there. And we're running that from tomorrow, Friday, till Monday. So 15% off. And then we've got some more Morse keys over here. Fantastic, thank you, Rachel. And now I'm going to pass you over to Rob G3MYM, who's going to give us a short presentation. So over to you, Rob.
Well, thank you, Justin. And I'm very pleased that Justin has done this display for VE Day, because I'm old enough to remember VE Day in 1945 and the immediate post-war years. And also, as someone once said, history is important, because if you forget your history, you're doomed to make the same mistake again. Now, as this is an amateur radio shop, we have a display of radio equipment from World War II. And the first one is the HRO receiver, which radio amateurs who were not called up for military service because either they were too young or too old or in a reserved occupation were recruited to listen to the Enigma machine-coded German signals, write down what they heard and pass them down to Bletchley Park. And this was the receiver that a lot of them would have used, and they were called voluntary interceptors. The next radio is a domestic utility radio. Now, this one was only produced for 2 years, 1944 and 1945, and this would have been the radio in ordinary people's houses that they would have heard Churchill's announcement in 1945 saying that May the 8th would be VE Day. So that was the type of radio they would have heard that on. We now move along to this American radio. Now, after D-Day, American troops are over here in Europe, away from the USA, and this was a radio which is a shortwave receiver, and it's called the morale booster because it enabled American servicemen over here in Europe to listen to American shortwave broadcast stations and sort of be able to hear from stations from back home in the USA. And the last receiver on display is the R1155. Now, this is the radio receiver that was in the Lancaster bomber. And now we're going to look at the Morse keys. And right over here on the right hand side, we have a German Luftwaffe ground station Morse key. Next to it is the British equivalent, the RAF ground station Morse key. And look at the difference in size. The British one is a lot bigger and heavier. Now we move along to a very famous key, which is the Lancaster bomber key. Now, you've all seen the film The Dam Busters, and when the Lancasters were over the dams, they dropped the bomb, went down, Barnes Wallis's bouncing bomb, went down, bounced along, up to the dam, exploded, and the dam held. They then sent the code word Goner back from the Lancasters back to Britain, and that is the Morse key, type of Morse key that they would have used to do that. Moving along, we have the Royal Navy rocker Morse key, really heavy type Morse key used on ships during the war. Moving along again, have the sort of British WT8 Morse key. This is my favourite Morse key. There were many versions of it, and they were turned out in their millions, so there's still a lot of them about today. Moving along again, we come to the American, one of the types of American Morse key that was used in World War II, the McElroy stream key. Ted McElroy was very famous. He was the only person in the world, and still the record still holds, who could receive Morse at 70 words a minute. And finally, the last key, a Russian Morse training key. Russia was on our side during World War II, so we have a Russian training key. One of the other things that came in was this little model Hellcat aircraft, and the Hellcat was an American aircraft used on the American aircraft carriers during World War II. One final thing is this picture of a radio operator. We can't see the radio, so we don't quite know when it was. Some clues: there's an American type of Morse key and a scout hat, so it looks like a scout hat, so he's either American or Canadian. And as one of the customers who came into the shop noticed, I must admit I hadn't noticed it at the time, he's wearing puttees, which was the type of ankle wear that the forces had during World War One. So we think that might be World War One. So that's a very brief outline of the museum. Ideally, if you're in Yeovil, come along to the shop, see the real thing, and we can tell you a lot more about it. And we also have a 1920s and older museum as well.
Lovely.
Back to you, Justin.
Brilliant, that's lovely. Stay there for a minute, Rob, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Thank you very much for doing that. I really appreciate that. And on the subject of Morse keys, Rob, I'd like to just give you a little present, if that's okay. Yeah. I know you don't know anything about this, and Rachel knows about it as well, but I'd like to give you this little present that I had made for you. And if you'd like to open it now, that'd be brilliant.
Lovely.
It's just a small token to say thank you for all your help. We started in 2017, and Rob's been a pivotal part of that since 2017.
Oh, really?
And we got some.
And it's a Morse key.
It's an actual genuine Morse key, this one. And we got some engraving on there as well. With your, I hope we got your call sign right, haven't we?
To Rob, G3MYM, for all your help, Lindars Radio.
Rob,
that's a pleasure.
thank you very much, sir. We really
lovely.
appreciate all the help
you.
you've given us. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel.
So to remind everybody once again, it's 15% off all Morse keys this weekend. Thank you very much for watching. Cheers. Thank you.